In 2021, I made a video called Quick Hair Demo Thing. Now, what someone forgot to mention to me is that I didn't know what quick meant because the video was 46 minutes long and it was full of just a bunch of dumb things. So today we're going to revisit with my new knowledge on how hair works. That is also still, for the record, disclaimer, I'm not God. You all can have different ways of doing hair. Someone just asked me how I do it. And so I'm going to make that video now. So I have some images, and I think there are a few things to care about when you're drawing hair. And the first thing is going to probably, I'm going to choose a different color, be shape. That's not a better color. You want the general shape of what the hair is going to look like. That will help you with a lot of things. The second is style. And then the third will probably be something like essentializing things. I don't know if that's a word or not, but I like it. And it's not particularly in that order. So when we're talking about shape, it's good to have the general idea of how your hair is going to flow down. So we see that there's braids here, and then there's like this little streak here. That's basically all you need to think about for shape. When you're working with a character, it's good to be like, okay, what vibes is this character going to give off? Is it going to be like blah, blah, blah? Like shape can go a long way into determining how your hair will come across and how the character that is wearing the hair will come across. So for shape, for all of these, here's like this shape. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just like knowing the general idea of how your hair is going to look. I don't recommend actually doing this every time you draw hair. It's just good to start off when you're practicing to learn the forms and how hair might fall. And then this one's kind of like open triangle with a little circle on top. And this one's like bloop. Okay, it's good to start off doing that because then you'll get the general idea of like what your form is going to be. And then the second one would be, well, I guess then you want to go more into what the shape looks like. When you think of hair, a lot of times beginner artists will try to do like every strand, but that's not really how hair falls. So sometimes if you get a haircut, you'll see this the best. Your hair strands usually don't like poof up and like go everywhere. A lot of times they're grouped together when they fall. And when you look at hair in photos, it's also grouped together. You can find distinct groups. So like, here's one, here's one, here's one. And then just like getting the grouping is really useful to be like, okay, how are these strands of hair going to fall and what are like the shapes and the general style? Because hair, like I said before, I'm going to stress it again, groups up. It always will group up. Basically, there's going to be shapes. It's really rare that someone has like the perfect fuzzy hair. It's usually like after you blow dry your hair, and usually it has to be pretty short. Like a lot of times, most of the time, hair is going to be grouped into thicker shapes. And this is also to go with essentializing. This is us essentializing the form of the hair. And then here's a chunk. And then there's one there. Bloop. And then we also have this here. That was a good chunk. And then one thing to know when you are drawing hair is that it's really great to like loosen up your shoulders. You really don't want to be too stiff. You want to just you want to do everything mostly in one fell swoop. You can usually see that like I will take lines and like Control Z and stuff, and you can probably hear my keyboard doing that. It's good to go because if you do hair like this, it like flows a little worse. I feel, in my opinion, that's typically for when you're lining. I'm going to do the typical form, like the essentializing and the shape now, and one moment. Okay, so while I'm doing curls, another thing to notice, it's really when we're talking about essentialization, we're thinking like, what will the lines look like? So one thing when you're doing like curly hair is you'll see like a lot of times you'll see people like do like this where they follow the outside, and that's perfectly fine, and we'll get into that when we're talking about style. But a lot of times something that can communicate ideas a little bit more efficiently is adding like little lines. So you'll show like here's a curl, like the hair is twisting here, so it'll be like bloop bloop, and then a lot of times you want the lines to kind of follow, so like that, and then yeah, it's good to have like the little lines showing like it's totally fine to like cut across to show stuff. I learned this a lot when I was starting to draw like Rarity, when I was in my Little Pony phase, where her curls are like they were like this, where it would come over and then it'd be like this, and then it would be like this, and I was so confused because I'm like, I don't understand what's going on here. I could tell that it was like a good curl, but I couldn't understand what was going on when I was actually trying to replicate it like in my style, because I was like, the hair just like ends there, where does it go? Because what I would have done if I was doing Rarity's curls would have been something like this instead, a little bit less smooth because I was a younger artist back then, and I would have been like, that looks like that's a curl, right? I don't understand how it's working, but it's totally fine to have like different segments of the hair, and you can think about like how that leads into other things. Yeah, like it's fine to have the lines that cross each other. I'm like, that just ends there, but no, it didn't end there. It's just communicating an idea that we aren't fully like able to see. And yeah, I'll finish the chunks real quick. Okay, so I finished up the chunks, and some other things that I want to make note of is that every single strand of hair leads back to the scalp in some way. Hair isn't just gonna come out like randomly from like the neck or anything. Like there's a certain cutoff point for hair, and it's also helpful to know that every hair is going to has a start and an end. A lot of times you'll see artists do something like and like just doing like, sometimes they'll do like random things like that where it's like jutting out, and while that can be good for stylization, it sometimes can or like I'm trying to think of a good example. It sometimes can be like really weird because the hair has to go up somehow. You want the hair, it's hard to do on purpose. You want the hair to sort of lead up, and you want the hair to have a certain flow to it. You can have sharp hair if you're going for a stylized look, but a lot of times having a very loose shoulder and a very loose wrist, everything like that, that can lead to really nice hair. And it's good to also know like how the hair leads up to the skull. So here are the finished like essentializations, and now we will go to style. Where did my style thing go? Hold on. Okay, so I deleted the faces that I had prepared, but I had another recording where I messed up and had them. So the quality is really bad on these faces, but the idea will still stand when we start to draw the hair onto it. Now we're going to talk about style. When we are thinking about hair, we have to realize that super realistic hair is going to look really weird on some styles. We want to fit our style accordingly. So typically when we're doing something a little more realistic, like something like this, we want hair to fit that more realistic style. It's good to have stuff like lead back and the lines showing and stuff like that. And yeah, so we'll want it in like, we still want like large chunks, and we still don't want to draw too many strands, because in hair, when you're thinking about hair, you really don't look at the strands, like typically. You think of the chunks. And then, yeah, so you can still stylize stuff when you're doing semi-realistic stuff, but you just want to keep in mind some of the, you just want to have a little more detail. Typically, it's good to, it can be good to, like, have these lines showing right here that lead up and stuff like that. And then the opposite, when we're dealing with something that's really cartoony, you can deal with thicker lines, and you typically want to ignore this part. You only want like the outline. So like, let me think of it better. Boop. And you can afford to get a little more sharp as well. And unrealistic with how the hair flows. Yeah, so like something like this, where that's not like technically correct. Like there are going to be lots of different ways that the hair is going to flow, stuff like that. But typically when you're doing cartoony stuff, having less detail fits the style a little bit better. There are always going to be exceptions to that, but this is a typical advice, I think. When we're dealing with something a little like semi-realistic, something like this, it can be good to have the same, to like find a perfect middle ground. So like less like deviations, like less deviations, less detail, but a little bit more detail than your cartoony one. So like going up a little more with that. Let me find a different style. And like it's good to show more of like stuff that's going on, I think. And a style that like having the less detail one like here would still fit it. These are a little more flexible in what you can look like when it comes to hair. Like stuff can still look good and be like less realistic as well. That was maybe not the best hair example that I'm doing. I'm just coming up with stuff on the fly. But yeah, like stuff is gonna look a little it's like the best of both worlds, if that makes sense. Yeah. So see, we've got like parts showing a bit. We've got some lines that lead down on the strands, and like stuff like that. It's very similar to this. It's just got a little more detail on the inside. Yeah. So I'm not going to show how to shade as much in this video, mostly just because I'm still trying to find a method that looks great and works best for me. I haven't found the best techniques for that yet, so I want to hold off before I do anything like that. And I'm also not going to call this video quick, even though it's way shorter than my other video, because I recognize that 13 minutes is not a quick video. Like, yeah, so hopefully that makes things a little bit easier. And again, I'm not God, I'm not an art wizard, I am just showing what works best for me. Yeah, okay, see ya.